the Lions of Liberty podcast. Here is your host, your guide, your shining beacon of liberty, Marc Clair.
Well, what have we here? It is indeed another edition of the Lions of Liberty podcast. In fact, this is the 184th episode of this program. And that means you can find the show notes for today's episode over at lionsofliberty.com/184. And this is going to be a special one because we're going to try something a little different here today. We've got two separate crews covering two separate debates because they've just become too much for us to handle. So we had to divvy up the labor a little bit. But before we get into things, I want to remind you all that you can support our podcast, all these podcasts, all these debate reaction shows, all these interviews that we do here by shopping through our Amazon link. You can find that over at lionsofliberty.com/Amazon. It costs you nothing to do this except for, the price of whatever crazy stuff you're buying online nowadays. And, it just sends us a little kickback to help us keep the lights on here at the Lions of Liberty studios. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce my A-team. I get to call us the A-team because we're the first ones and because I'm the host. But our first debate we're going to cover is the Democratic debate, which took place on Thursday evening. And to cover that, I've got, I never bring you in first. So why don't I start with my legal counsel, Mr. Rico over in Cleveland.
Whoa, I wasn't prepared for that.
I know you weren't. I wanted to throw you a little curveball.
I'm stunned. I'd say it's good to be back, but it kind of feels like I never left. And I was just thinking that. It feels like I was just sitting here in the studios. Big loop. Staring at this microphone with similar voices on the other end of it. Podcast matrix we're in.
It is. All right, we'll get your thoughts further in a minute. But first, we got to bring in the Godfather himself of Lions of Liberty, Howie Snowdon, in Leesburg, VA, not PA, like I said last time.
Hey, Mark. If we're going to be the A-team, I want to be face.
All right, you can be face. I'm clearly Murdoch. Although, really, if I'm the leader, I should be Hannibal, I guess. So that leaves, Rico's got to be Mr. T, right?
That's what I was hoping for.
All right.
That works. And hey,
since there's only three of us, I'm going to be like a weird, like Hannibal Murdoch, amalgamation. I'm going to be like if they had a child, basically, and then it grew up to be a great, crazy leader.
We all have goals and dreams.
All right. Hopefully our audience actually was big fans of the A-team, because otherwise this is just boo. They're just dropping like fries right now. So speaking of dropping like fries, let's get into this Democratic debate tonight, because I have a feeling I kind of felt like my blogging team, my live blogging team, was sort of dropping like flies as this thing went along, because I don't know. I actually didn't mind this debate compared to some of the other ones I've seen. It actually, to me, it helps when O'Malley is gone. Because it's just more one-on-one. It's Bernie v. Hillary. And to me, there's more of a distinction between the two. Obviously not in their policies, as we'll talk about, because apparently their goal was just, especially Hillary, not as much Bernie, but Hillary seemed like all she wanted to do was just be sure to emphasize how much she agreed with Bernie on everything before going into whatever minor deviation in policy proposals she might have. Did you guys pick up that at all?
I did pick up on it, and I blogged it, actually. So,
oh yeah, that's where I got this from.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was live blogging that too, but I have to admit I did fall asleep for like 15 to 20 minutes. Just they're killing me.
That's great. I rhetorically asked if anyone fell asleep, but someone literally did. So.
I started just to surf the internet. I found it quite kind of tedious. Like, we've watched this exact same Democratic debate 5-6 times already. The only difference really was Hillary trying to become a Bernie clone. So maybe people will like her and vote for her, but that's
he's definitely served the purpose of like trying to pull her to the left. And it makes you realize how close to, I guess you want to call it the center, but that's where I would call where most Republican candidates are already. Like, the difference between what she really is and an actual Republican currently running is very minimal, if anything, other than slight rhetoric. But Bernie is kind of pulling that in the other direction and making her kind of waffle, because she wants to be that centrist. So that's what her goal is. That's how she sells herself, as the reasonable one. She's got the same ideals as Bernie, but she's not coming up with all these crazy plans. We can't do everything, she says. There's a limit to what we can do, which is really funny to hear coming from Hillary Clinton, to say there's a limit on what the government can do, which you never think she'd be in a position where that's the side of a debate she has to be on.
even her moving to the left, though, it just seems like it's all just talk. It just comes off as so disingenuous. She's just a liar. I don't believe anything that she says at all. She's not like Bernie Sanders. I don't know, especially in terms of foreign policy or her trying to say that like she's been fighting the banks and the pharmaceutical industry and all that crap. It's like, no, you haven't. It's none of that. Nothing she says is true at all.
Well, yeah, she's actually taken the most money from the pharmaceutical industry than any other presidential candidate that's running. So it's funny when she comes out as, those healthcare companies, they sure are afraid of me. I mean, the Obama administration, the healthcare companies, they wrote this law together, the Affordable Care Act, the major healthcare companies, because what you're seeing now, you're seeing all this consolidation in the healthcare industry. You're seeing certain companies go out of business and get usurped by the bigger ones, and it's just being consolidated into the hands of a very few corporations, which is kind of what Bernie Sanders is getting at. He just doesn't get there in a very logical way. He really, to me, he sees a lot of the symptoms. He sees that, people are feeling like there's a sense of injustice out there. They feel like the system is rigged. And even Hillary Clinton is out there saying the system is rigged. But it's just, it's very vague the way he explains things.
Isn't it good? Yeah, I mean, Hillary it's rigged in her favor, so she can't complain too much.
She's the face of crony capitalism. And even, we mentioned the banks, the pharmaceutical industries, but what about like a military-industrial complex with Boeing and all the money she gets from them? Like, no wonder she's such a warmonger. She's the worst. I think Trump said recently, she's just, in a way, she's evil, and he's right.
Another point for Trump.
I was when I was watching this just horrible debate, Bernie just came across as just an idiot to me. And then I was trying to picture if they were on like a teeter-totter and you had to weigh Bernie's idiotness versus Hillary's corruptness, who would be at the bottom? I don't know if that makes any sense at all.
Sort of.
Yeah, I guess not. Whatever. I mean, Hillary is just intolerable, and Bernie's answer to everything is just to make it bigger. Someone getting $16 a month, that wasn't really explained. The old guy getting $16 a month from
that was one of those Facebook questions.
Like, where's he getting $16 a month from? I don't know. How old is he? I don't know. Well, just give him more. That was the answer for Bernie.
He clearly doesn't understand economics. But did you guys see that article the other day where Ron Paul is saying that, of all the people left, he would be the most libertarian choice?
That's funny because I haven't argued that he's the most libertarian. I don't know if I would go that far. I just think he might be the least bad of all possible options. Although I'm starting to think Donald Trump might be the least bad of all possible options.
What is Bernie really libertarian on other than criminal justice reform?
I don't know how. I didn't read that article. So what was Ron Paul's argument?
Criminal justice reform, auditing the Fed.
Which he didn't really
policy
support when he could have had the chance, right?
Well, he did vote for the recent bill, the Rand's audit the Fed bill, which Cruz didn't show up to vote for.
Didn't when Ron Paul had the original bill, and wasn't he going with Bernie, and then Bernie kind of threw him on the bus?
Bernie wanted to go for a watered-down version.
Yeah.
Disappointing. But
basically, in committee, Bernie watered down the bill and made it not as quite as invasive. The one that finally did pass, the one that he mentioned tonight, that was in the Dodd-Frank bill. That's the audit the Fed, I guess, provision, or not the Dodd-Frank bill, but it was a provision passed as a part of another bill, and the version that Bernie had in there was, I guess, watered down. Ron Paul has a whole video on YouTube about that. So it's funny that he would actually mention that. I mean, I guess comparatively, compared to other Democrats and even most other Republicans, the fact that he at least went out and audited the Fed, he even talks about the Fed sometimes, that's, puts him above, most of the other candidates.
He's also bringing up how, like, Ted Cruz is, like, beholden to Goldman Sachs and things like that. And I think it's more just, like, comparative, like, compared to Ted Cruz and Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump and Ron Paul's eyes, he thought, the least bad would be Bernie Sanders, which is, I agree, but, I'm not cheerleading any of these people.
It was actually the Dodd-Frank bill, by the way. I was right, and then I thought I was wrong, so I tried to back down, and then I did a little research while you were talking, and I was right. I should trust my instincts. That's the lesson.
The best question I think of the night was when it was another Facebook question. They said, "What part of the government would you eliminate?" And Bernie was stumped. He was like, "I would eliminate the bureaucracies that are wasteful."
Okay. He did say he'd cut the Department of Defense.
He kind of tepidly went there after the initial answer when he couldn't think of anything. And then he said, "I would look at the Department of Defense." Okay, you're going to look at something. Okay, you're not doing anything. And Hillary's answer was like, she would eliminate what's not needed. Okay.
I'll tell you what, I was feeling like
the trick part is I think everything's needed. So gotcha.
I was feeling like Bernie was the least bad option of all these guys, but after I was doing my taxes the other day, I think I'm swinging more towards Trump on this. I don't know, the way he wants to grow government and how expensive it'll all be.
It would be funny to see a Bernie tax plan when you're filing tax. It would be funny until you actually had to pay the money, but you can just see like, okay, this is the amount of money you made, and you're paying, like, if they named individual people you're paying to send to college, like, they just pair you up with Sally on your street. Here's like $1,000 for her to go to college.
Like those Save the Children commercials with Sally Struthers.
They write you a card, though, at the end of every semester thanking you.
Do you get their grades back, like their report card?
Yeah, but if they get straight A's, you have to send them $20 for every A.
Oh, man.
And then, like, the guy at the corner store, you got to chip in $40 so he can get a better meal.
Really? You got a D in volleyball? Are you kidding me?
That's only $5.
Hey, well,
because you still passed technically.
Will Bernie pay for us to go back to Penn State?
Wow.
Yeah. Dude, what about like getting reimbursed for college?
I don't want to get reimbursed. I want us to move back into fraternity.
Yeah. Oh, you mean we actually go again?
He'll pay us to go again and get another degree.
Yeah, if it's free college for all, like, why should it matter that I just happen to have already gone, 10 to 12 years ago or whatever it might be? The time is unimportant. Yeah, why should it just be for 18 to 24-year-olds? Why not us? Oh, that's actually a good question, though, because, okay, we went to college. We can put us aside in the real conversation. But, he's talking about – Bernie's basically advocating that the government be fully in charge of educating everybody from – the time they're 5 years old in kindergarten to the time they're like 22, because he wants to pay for K through 12 and pay for all college. And just, that's not going to be a problem. They're just going to, and his solution is always tax speculation. That's all I ever hear. Do you guys have any idea what that means?
Not really.
Okay. Howie?
I'd be willing to bet it doesn't work though.
just thinking like in our circle in college, if you look at everyone we hung out with, how many of those people didn't give an F about
flying hoot
about doing anything, like never studied, never went to class for 2 or 3 years, and now the government's going to pay for them.
Hey, Howie's right here on the call with us, all right?
Hey,
you don't have to call
I
him
graduated. D for diploma. That's all that matters.
How it was much better than some of the other people I was thinking of. But can you only imagine, like, now a lot of people don't want to go to college, but if the government's paying for them, they'll say, oh, what the hell?
Everyone may as well. And I'm curious, does it just pay for tuition? Does it pay room and board? Does it pay the kind of stuff some student loans would pay that's like enough to live on too? Like, are we
Why
just going to pay
should only
people?
rich people get to live in dorms?
Exactly.
Why should only rich people get a meal plan?
Why should only rich people get to go to happy hour?
Yeah.
Heck, why do you have to go to happy hour? Why can't we pay for people to get full priced drinks?
One thing I wish Bernie would do though is instead of like saying all this stuff that is clearly alluding to Hillary Clinton standing right next to him, just be like, listen, I wish you just call her by name and call her out. Like, you're taking all this money. You're the 1/2 of the 1/10 of 1%.
Well, he was kind of doing it. He was like 80% doing it. I mean, he was basically like, I'm just saying, people, the Wall Street, they do not donate money for no reason. The drug companies, they do not just donate money out of the goodness of their hearts. I'm just saying. That's basically
I guess I want to see him do it the way Trump would do it.
That might have been when you were sleeping, though.
What is his answer, though? You just can't donate over a certain amount? I didn't understand.
He just wants to limit it and I guess not allow these super PACs that basically allow corporations to donate money.
I mean, It's just an end around to donations. If people don't donate through their corporations, they're going to find out another way to donate.
Yeah, or find out other ways to get corporate paybacks. I mean, to me, the real problem with finance is that there's so much stuff to give away. We have a system that allows just things to be handed out to people, contracts just to be handed out to companies. That's what they're paying for. So take away what they're paying for. No one seems to ever bring that up when talking about campaign finance reform.
Yeah, it's a perfect point, because people should really be able to donate as much money as they want to whatever candidate. But if they're not getting a return on their investment, they're not going to, donate that much. Problem solved.
And you made a good point in the live blog. I won't try to steal your thought this time, but saying that, well, I mean, you're describing his own supporters in a way too. I mean, Bernie supporters, a lot of them are supporters because they want something too. They're donating their average of $27 because they want free college, or they want other things that Bernie is promising them, and not even necessarily in a nefarious way. I sent Ron Paul money twice in 2 different election cycles because I wanted the things he was talking about, which were, to me, was just ending the war on drugs, less wars and stuff like that. It wasn't really getting stuff, but I wanted to see goals accomplished. So, I mean, it's the same thing. Everybody's doing the same thing. They're donating because they want to see whatever these candidates are going to do happen.
The way I see it, though, is so Bernie's getting money from small donations. He's able to raise as much money, almost. He's able to raise enough. So I don't think it's the issue of not being able to fund yourself without taking these donations from large, corporations. I think the important thing is, though, the people that are taking those, like Hillary, are going to be beholden to them, whereas Bernie's going to be beholden to, the average Joe that's sending them $27, whatever it is he keeps saying over.
Well, it's going to be just as costly, though, to the country for him to give free college to all of his supporters and really everyone, or raise the minimum wage.
It would be funny if he had to take phone calls from each supporter that sent him the money. Like, Bernie, I sent you my $27, all right? And I'm trying to get into Marist. I need to know, is this going to be paid for or what?
Rico, remember, though, he can't just unilaterally do all this stuff. He's got to work with Congress. It's not it's just because he becomes president, it doesn't mean all this stuff is going to happen.
If I've seen anything from Obama and Bush, is you kind of can unilaterally do a lot of things.
Well, they didn't pass any like legislation concerning taxes and stuff unilaterally. I mean, stuff like the stuff Bernie wants to do would really have to go through Congress. And I think that's where he would hit a roadblock. And that's kind of been my argument for why I think he might be least bad, because the things he would have control over, like pardoning drug offenders, lowering the schedule of certain drugs like marijuana, and, the NSA spying, stuff like that he's against, and, all the non-interventions. I think that was clear tonight that he's definitely not as much of a hawk as Hillary at all, even though he clearly, as she pointed out, which was a funny moment, she pointing out, playing a different role here, pointing out Bernie as someone who supported regime change as a criticism, even though, of course, she's the biggest regime change supporter out there. It's just interesting to see him have to sort of take this footing against her.
Well, just backing up a second, though, composition of Congress can change pretty quickly. Like, if you look at what it was in the first 2 years of Obama, it was so heavily leaning to the Democrats that he could push Obamacare through without any Republican support. So if Bernie got elected, maybe the first 2 years, he's not going to get any economic legislation through that he likes. But say he's reelected for a second term, the House or Senate could be pretty heavily Democrat by then, just by natural change. And by that time, everything's getting through. So if not now, maybe later, which would all be just as dangerous.
In my world, Bernie Sanders would be like a Jimmy Carter president. He would have 4 years where they would do some interventions and, the economy would kind of get bad. Not that I want the economy to get bad, but he wouldn't do anything terribly harmful. And then we'd kick him out and try to get our senses together.
Well, it's optimistic thinking, but I guess we shall see.
I try to be optimistic here. Let's see. What else? Is it time to talk about Donald Trump yet? They talk about him in every single debate.
Kind of. Something I wanted to talk about is, when we just saw the results from New Hampshire recently and Sanders and Trump did so well, it's showing that people from both parties are just sick of the establishment. Something that I was thinking about today is, say Trump and Sanders get a lot of popular support, but the parties screw them over somehow, and they don't get each respective nomination. imagine 4 years from now how pissed off the people who are pissed off now already are going to be. Would that be a chance for finally a third party candidate or maybe some like a libertarian?
If we're going to imagine something, and in your scenario, let's imagine that Trump and Sanders get screwed by each party and then run together on a third party ticket.
That would be amazing.
Now, this is the most exciting election I've ever seen, though. It's so entertaining.
I think it's the most interesting one in our lifetimes, right? I mean, at least since we've been paying attention to these things.
I love just getting up every day and hearing what Trump said, what ridiculousness he's to.
But not to talk about Donald Trump too much, because there's a GOP debate crew coming in too, so we'll let them handle most of that. But they can't go a debate, whether it's GOP undercard, whether it's a GOP debate where Donald Trump doesn't show up, whether it's a Democratic debate, without mentioning Donald Trump. And I find that this is the first time they really seem to go out of their way to bring him up. And I feel like they're both positioning themselves as against Trump as the nominee. So, I mean, do you think that they're now seeing Trump as inevitable? Or that they just project him as being the caricature of the Republican
I think that's what it is where to maybe the average Democrat, Trump personifies evil. And maybe I'm just making it up, but he's obviously the most recognizable Republican figure right now, especially to people who might not be following it, what the policies are, what their debates are. If you're just a Democrat watching the Democratic debate and hearing sound bites, you're like, oh my God, I hate that Trump guy. I hate that Trump guy. They probably are not as much familiar with Rubio or Kasich or,
is anybody familiar with Kasich besides us?
I live in Ohio. I see all the wonders every day. But
I've met him. I like him.
Do you like him, Howie? That's right. We can do a quick sidebar here into a tale from the page desk. Why don't you tell us a little bit about meeting John Kasich when you were a congressional page?
He would have told you the same thing then as he tells you now. He balanced the budget,
Is that all he ever talked about? He'd be like, you're like, hey, I'm Howie. He's like, John Kasich, budget balancer.
You're in the urinal next to him. He's like, I balance the budget. Like, all right.
But I'm having real trouble balancing this urinal kick.
But I don't know. Yeah, Democrats. I know my mom's a huge Democrat. She hates Trump with a passion. I don't know. It just makes me laugh when I hear, just hearing like what you said about Ted Cruz recently. I was dying.
Well, you got to tell us now.
It was so unnecessary how he did that in that conference or in that rally.
Oh, when he called him a Pussy. Why am I spelling it like my kid is in the room? This is an explicit podcast. He called Ted Cruz a pussy.
Well, didn't he someone called him a pussy in the audience, and it would have been inaudible to.
He was like, "Oh, don't you say? Did you say that word? Okay, I'm not gonna repeat it. I'm not gonna.
A woman.
This one time. Okay, she didn't say. I didn't say. She called him a pussy. I'm not saying it. Oh, it's so he's hilarious.
It was completely unnecessary, but quite amusing.
Man, if he keeps it up, I might be buying myself a "Make America Great Again" hat.
All right, we gotta pull ourselves out of the Trump vortex because it's so easy to get pulled into there because we can spend hours talking about Donald Trump. Let's get back to some of Bernie's stuff before we wrap things down here and toss it over to our Republican crew. And the things Bernie is good on, like I guess what bothers me about Bernie is like I want to like him for a couple of things. The fact that he talks about criminal justice reform, the fact that he talks about inherent racism in the justice system. I mean, it's apparent. But he doesn't go far enough, at all. Like, he didn't even, not only does he not say, so we should end the war on drugs, he doesn't even mention the war on drugs as a factor in all this, which is when it's probably the biggest factor. So that kind of bothers me. I don't get why he doesn't go into that. I mean, he mentions marijuana. He did bring up marijuana, but he's afraid to say war on drugs. He's afraid. I don't know if he's afraid or he just chooses not to for whatever reason, but he never goes too far into the drug aspect of it when it's the primary reason that so many people are locked up. So it seems to me that there's a strange disconnect there. And then same thing with foreign policy. Like, he's pretty good, but then he's like, well, but we got to get some troops here against Russia and lying around our European allies. And then he gets into all this other weird kind of foreign policy ideas where he sounds like a dove 1 minute, but then he sounds like, Ronald Reagan, arming ourselves against the evil communist threat the next minute. So it's like I really want to like him on the things that he's good on, but then he can't get all the way there and still comes across as kind of fuzzy on things.
Is he doing the Rand Paul like on his foreign policy?
I think he
where
is.
He doesn't want to be too far to the Dove side, and he, is trying to like project some quote unquote strength on the issue, and it just becomes wishy-washy and
maybe as a socialist, he's just super focused on economic stuff and doesn't really.
That's so funny that he'd be super focused on economics and still not have a clue as to how it works. But
economists, their whole career is like that.
Yeah, they win Nobel prizes.
These prizes. Oh,
I'm so used to that. I don't know. I'm punch drunk. Whatever.
That's what these debates will do to you. After I was super shocked when they told me it was only the 6th Democratic debate. I could have sworn this was like the 15th.
That's impossible.
Hey, what do you guys think of the in Congress the Black Caucus throwing their support behind Hillary Clinton?
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, just today, and then
you sound very upset by this.
I think it's ridiculous. And one of the guys, I can't think of his name right now, but I guess he was big during the civil rights movement. Someone brought up, how Bernie Sanders had, marched for civil rights. He's like, I don't remember seeing him there.
Well, I think they're just reading.
They're like, well, here's his arrest records and things from
because he didn't happen to run into him at a particular rally
30 years ago.
He's like, I didn't see him.
No, I would have remembered that guy with that hair. Yeah, I would have remembered him.
I think they're just reading,
only Jew there
or whatever.
But the way the Clinton administration, things they did have put, especially minorities, unfairly in prison. It just blows my mind that they have so much support from like the Black community.
What about Bernie Sanders finally sort of playing the Jewish card a little bit? I don't know if you guys caught that. He didn't actually say it at all, but Hillary always has to bring up the woman thing, and she said something about referring to making history as the first woman president, and he was kind of like saying, well, I've been around a while, and well, because of my background, if I were president, I would make history too. Like basically saying like, Jewish president hasn't happened yet either. So, either one of us can make history here. All right.
I actually listened to that and didn't pick up Jewish at all. It went right over my head.
I don't know what else he could have been talking about when he referred to his background.
I was thinking he's talking about being a socialist, being like
maybe the first socialist.
It's all kinds of history.
First, is he the first from Vermont? Has there been a Vermontian president before? Maybe it's that.
Yes.
The first man to look like, what's his name from Back in the Future to become president?
Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah, the first Christopher Lloyd lookalike to become president.
Biff.
First man to be impersonated by Larry David to become president. There's a lot of possibilities he could have been referring to, I suppose.
I feel like he's going to pull it off. I don't know.
You think he's gonna? Well, good. Let's get into this now because this is my next thing. Actually, we'll get into predictions in a second. First, I want to ask you guys one thing. It's actually a 2-part question. I want to ask you who the winner of the debate is, but it's 2 parts. One is who you think the winner of the debate is, just from your own beliefs or what have you, whatever perspective you want to take on it. And then the other factor is who do you think the average primary voting Democrat takes away as the winner. So we'll start with Rico again.
I guess I would say Hillary won the debate because I think she positioned her position.
She positioned those positions. That's exactly what she did.
Powers.
Did I position your position?
She's like, I'm like, I said Larry David. I'm like Bernie in all these respects. So I think people are going to be like, there's not really any difference, but she was more articulate in a lot of ways and more fiery, I thought, in certain points. And not that I agreed with anything she said. I just think her demeanor came across as like more knowledgeable, if that's possible.
Yeah, she presents herself better. She's able to look like she knows what she's talking about, and
so Rico, is she the winner for? Is she the winner for?
Talking, and I just go into like a blind rage and just get so mad every time she talks. She's a liar. She's a snake. But I think the average person who doesn't really follow politics, who doesn't know much about her, probably feels she's more polished.
And she doesn't ever seem fazed by anything that happens in the debate.
When she laughs, though, She kind of reminds me of like Jack Nicholson as the Joker. I don't know.
She does have that lovely face, but yes. What was the second part of the question?
Well, just if she wins, like if you think that the average primary Democrat voter will see her as the winner as well. Like, do you see her the winner from your perspective, and you think that the primary voters will see her the same way?
Well, I guess I don't really identify with anyone who would consider voting for either one of those two.
You've met them. They're in Ohio.
Well, yes, and they're all Hillary supporters to begin with, really.
There you go. There's your answer, I guess.
I don't know. Does it really even matter what she does in the primaries? Because she's just going to get all the super delegates. She's just going to have to be close enough to
You guys
not
say
get
that,
blown out. She's just not going to get blown out, and she's not going to lose the South. And I doubt she's going to lose California. So, she's going to do well enough in all these states where she has a lock-in, and then she's going to get the super delegates. And I don't think the race is going to be as close as maybe what the support would break down to. Like, maybe even if they were 50-50, she's going to do so much better just with her organization, the super delegates, that it's not really going to be.
It's that they have to be careful with that, though. If it seems like the party is just overriding the will of the people, they could have a revolt on their hands with the.
Yeah, I don't see her losing that many supporters. Fine, Bernie did good in Iowa and New Hampshire, hardly representative of the country as a whole. But we'll see how he does in South Carolina. I mean, if he does well in South Carolina,
I feel like South Carolina's going to let us down. I mean, how many times have they elected Lindsey Graham? It's just.
She's definitely going to win South Carolina. I feel like that's the hawkest state out there. I also
feel like I'm going to come on here every podcast and trash every state that's about to vote every time.
Well, they're all
idiots in South Carolina.
Okay, so do you think that Hillary came across as the winner too, then, Howie?
Not to me, because I listen to what they actually say, and I think she presents herself better, but the content of her message, I think, is bullshit. It doesn't.
But she agreed with Bernie on everything. Didn't you listen to her?
Not really. She kind of paid a little bit of lip service.
It was the first sentence of almost every answer.
Yeah, but then she's like, but, I'm not going to promise people things we can't do. I have a more realistic, blah, 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 pretty much status quo, keeping the same corporations in charge are in charge, paying the same money, same people.
God, how uninspiring.
Don't be as idealistic as you, Bernie, but...
How uninspiring could anybody be when they're just like, yeah, I mean, whatever. Those are nice ideas. We can't really we're just going to keep things pretty much the same. I'm going to make some minor tweaks and move along.
Yeah, she's going to keep, supporting the same cronies, but that's her position. I don't like it. So, yeah, to me as a voter, I don't think she won, but.
So what do you think? Who do you think your mom's going to choose? Hillary then, right?
I don't know. It'll be interesting. I know.
I'm going to view your mom as your version of the average Democratic voter.
She doesn't like Clinton. I could see her supporting Bernie, but if Clinton wins the primary, she will vote for her over any Republican that could possibly.
Well, of course.
Can Howie's mom be on after the Pennsylvania primary to recap?
Hey, I'm down. I'm totally down.
I don't know. She won't even go on Facebook. I don't know. But...
Oh, this is easier than Facebook. You just pick up a microphone, have a chat.
She won't even know.
Yeah, I could talk to her about it and have a hidden mic or something.
Oh, too bad our plotting of this is being recorded and it's going to be released to the world. So, all right. So, from my perspective, I think Bernie won for me. And I think he comes across as more of like. Not more of a better debater necessarily, not someone with like more presidential, but he comes across as more inspiring. He seems to really like want to be there. He seems to be there with a mission, even if it's a mission that I don't agree with him on, but he's good at what Robin Kerner always says is channeling the sense of injustice out there. And a lot of people have that sense. And I think he's very good at kind of capturing that. So to me, from that surface point of view, I do think he's the winner. You guys have perfect points about how Hillary is able to come across, though. She definitely comes across as the safer choice, for sure. If you're worried about the world like ending, although really to me, she's the war hawk. She's the one that's going to make the world end. If anybody, if you're worried about extremes, I guess you're probably going to stick with Hillary. She's the safe one. And that might represent the majority of Democrats. I don't know how much the progressive Sanders supporters can really influence things in the end. But it's already way more interesting than I thought it would be. So
if it's the who would you rather have a beer test with, I think I'd rather go up to Vermont and drink some Magic Hat with Bernie Sanders, or even get some Ben & Jerry's ice cream or something than do anything.
Howie has fully planned out his date with Bernie Sanders. Weekend with Bernie.
We're gonna ride bicycles.
That
Bernie,
should be our goal.
Let me come out there. We'll go get some ice cream. We'll get some beers. I've got some advice for you.
Okay, Howie, just give me a minute. I'm 300 people on hold. They gave me $27 each. They want to know when I'm going to get them to college.
Sending 36-year-olds back to college.
Howie, just give me a moment. Yes, I will try to get you back into Penn State. Please. All right. So, and then I want to do our predictions now, because it's actually, luckily, guys, we've got a little break coming. The Democrat crew's got a break coming. Not that we're going to necessarily stay on this side of things, but although we'll always be the A team in my heart. But I want to ask you guys, the next time we talk about Democrats, they don't have another debate until the 6th of March, which is not only after South Carolina and after Nevada, the two next big ones, but it's also after Super Tuesday, when there's like 18 or 20 something primaries. So a lot's going to happen between now and then. So just give me your quick summary. You don't need to predict every state or anything. That might take too long. Just say, is this over then? I mean, is Hillary going to sweep these states, or is Bernie going to win primaries and win enough to keep things interesting? Rico?
I think Clinton will win not all of them. I think she'll win enough to have a pretty commanding lead, but Bernie will stick around for a while. He'll still put up the good fight. He'll win a primary or two.
He'll probably win Vermont, I got to think, right?
Well, yeah, and he'll make Hillary sweat more than she wants to, but I don't think it's going to be particularly close. Are you looking down like a month or two? Because in 2 months or so, I would say.
Yeah, this would be about 3 weeks away.
Yeah, in a month or so, I think Hillary will start to pull away.
All right, Howie, any more optimism for the Burnster?
Yeah, I'm not ready to give up on humanity yet. I'm going to say that next time you meet, if we subtract super delegates from the equation and just look at actual earned delegates, I'm going to say that Bernie's going to be ahead.
Wow.
Even at this point, next time we speak about the Democrats in about 3 weeks, you think he's going to have more pledged delegates?
After Super Tuesday, I think he'll have more pledged delegates.
So he's going to win more primaries, or
I think so. And I don't think the news media is going to be able to resist not running with the story of like, oh my God, the underdog. We never thought he could do it, and it's going to balloon, and it's going to be so much more free press and coverage. Maybe they'll stop just showing the entirety of every Trump speech every day, and I don't know. I think the more people know about him and get to hear what he has to say compared to Clinton and the stuff I want to get out about her out there, I don't know. Especially if young people show up, I think there's a chance.
Well, come on. When has that ever happened? They've never shown up. Young people have literally never shown up. So I love to think that, but
New Hampshire, they just showed up in Canada and elected a young guy who wants to shake things up.
Well, maybe some Canadians will come over across the border and become American citizens in the next.
Oh, wait, do Canadians sneak in here and vote like Mexicans?
I don't know. You always hear about like Mexican immigrants getting on like the Democrat rolls, and you never hear about Canadians.
Maybe we should get that started. We'll start busting them up.
All right, we'll talk about that off air. I think that's the best place for that. Well, gentlemen, thank you for joining me once again here. Thank you for sitting through yet another debate with us. Did you notice that I'm copping out of giving a prediction here? No, I think that Hillary's going to be winning. I'm not going to go. I don't have as much optimism for Bernie, but I do think he's going to win enough to, like Rico said, keep things interesting, still be in it. And we'll see what happens, though. Things can get crazy. It's already the craziest, strangest campaign I've ever been a part of. And, at least it's interesting. At least it's not just Hillary's a shoo-in with no challenge. At least it's not just Jeb winning on the other side. So if for nothing else, I'm grateful for that. So thank you very much, folks. It's been a blast. And with that, I'm not going to sign off. No, I'm going to send you over to what I'm going to call the B team. Sorry, guys, but you're second. You're B. That's the way it is. Odie, the Republican debate crew. Take it away, guys.
Welcome back to the Lions of Liberty podcast. This is John Odermatt. You just heard from our Dem debate reaction team. They were calling themselves the A team there. I take exception to that, and I think the two gentlemen that I'm joined by tonight for this GOP reaction show will take exception to that as well. through the magic of time travel, or maybe it's just podcast editing, we have time traveled from after Thursday night of the Democratic debate to now it's Saturday night, and we're after the GOP debate to summarize the insanity that was that debate. It was completely nuts. I want to quickly dive into and start talking about this debate, so I don't want to waste any time. Let's go right to across the state. I'm in Pittsburgh. We're going to go over to Philadelphia to Jean-Bernard Lubin. How you doing, JB?
Doing pretty well, thanks, John. How's everything going?
It's going good, man. It's going good.
Did you enjoy the debate?
I did. I think. I don't know. It's hard to know if I enjoyed it or not. I laughed a lot. The crowd was really into it, but
yeah,
enjoyed
it was pretty entertaining, I felt.
Did you sip on some alcoholic beverages during this debate?
I certainly did. I have the Glenfiddich Bourbon Barrel Reserve here, age 14 years. It got me through. I'm pretty happy with it.
Delicious. All right. I'm drinking some Sweetwater 420, and I've had a couple of those, so I'm feeling pretty good. With that said, I'm going to turn the page here and flip it to Los Angeles. You haven't heard from him in a little while. I think you had maybe some back surgery, I think. Brian McWilliams in LA.
Hello, that is correct. I did get my back sliced open. Herniated discs, man. Avoid them if you can. They are not a good time.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah.
That sounds awful.
It was awful. I've been on my back the last 2 weeks. It's been terrible. Stand up, get head rushes. Awful. But it didn't stop me from drinking or blogging this debate. And I'm drinking a special. It's damn well right I am. A soldier for liberty. But this is an interesting thing. A buddy of mine for my recovery gift gave me this Orphan Barrel whiskey distillery, The Gifted Horse. And it's like they find some weird old barrel that they forgot about. It's like 17 years old, and then they mix it with a newer whiskey. It's interesting, to say the least.
Sounds pretty good.
Yeah, and by the way, I also take affront to being called the B team, mostly because, the A team, if you remember the TV show, yeah, they were charismatic, but they sucked. Nobody ever got shot. Screw that. That's not the way you win. We're the B team. We go in. If we're going in, we're shooting people. Right in the
No one
kneecap.
ever got shot in the A team?
Never.
I haven't seen this show in like 20 years, so I can't remember.
It was like G.I. Joe.
People definitely got shot. I saw an episode not too long ago where one of the A team got shot.
Well, yeah, they get shot, like they get winged. But I mean, like the people they're shooting at never die. Like it's like, oh, blah, 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 blah. They shoot for 20 minutes. Nobody ever gets hit. It's like to watch a G.I. Joe where nobody ever gets hit. It's just shoot, shoot, shoot. And it's like, oh, they gave up.
Oh, okay.
Because they couldn't show it on TV. Screw that. We're the B team. We kill people. Or at least shoot them in the leg.
Here's the B team.
That's our motto for the night. We're the B team. We kill people.
And our black guy will fly on airplanes.
Oh, I certainly will. I'll fly the airplane.
For those of you who don't know the A-team lore, Mr. T would never fly in airplanes. He was scared of it.
Yeah, you have to be drugged to get on there.
Yep.
Essentially kidnapped.
Meanwhile, we'll fly and be drugged just for fun. Because why not?
Just for fun, as I'm sure Brian has had a fair amount of maybe some painkillers for that back surgery.
Oh man, yeah, exactly. I may be a little loopy on this because I've been drinking this. It's really strong proof too. It's like 115 proof, and taking these painkillers. So hello,
Important
nurse.
question though. Have you been able to poop though? I don't know if you guys saw that Super Bowl commercial about the people taking too many opiates, not being able to poop.
I didn't see your picture up there, Brian. I was disappointed.
No, I auditioned, but they said no. No, I have a very regular bowel, so I'm pretty good. They gave me some softeners. Why are we even talking? This is ridiculous. This is more ridiculous than that debate was. This has devolved faster than the Republican debate tonight, which went downhill very quickly, but was very entertaining.
Let's jump right into it. Let's start talking about obviously the big news right before the debate. Supreme Court Justice Anton Scalia, I think I'm saying that right, passed away.
Isn't it normally?
Is it Scalia?
I think it's Scalia normally, right?
Scalia.
Brian?
Yeah.
Scalia?
Pronounced it some odd way during the debate, which I pronounced it Scalia, but the guy said it in some odd way, which I don't know, maybe he's right, but then again, I also say Muslim like Muslim, not like Muslim.
Muslim, like
That's
Bernie
true.
Sanders. Yeah. So they talk about that first, and I joked with Brian beforehand that Ben Carson his opening statement was going to be, I'd like to take a moment of silence for Supreme Court Justice Anton Scalia. But they trumped Ben Carson and did the moment of silence beforehand. So he had nothing to talk about.
Yeah, well, a lot of them still mentioned him in their opening statements, or at least during the night they referenced him a lot. So it was like, let's just mention him. Great, you get into a little bit of it. I mean, it was an interesting conversation though about the appointees, which I remember both of us kind of said it's just insane that these people are elected, they're appointed for life. They're not elected. They're appointed, and then they get to stay in the Supreme Court for the rest of their lives, which is insane. And Ben Carson actually mentioned that just the life expectancy was lower back when the rules were made. But yeah, it's crazy. You can get elected, you're in there for 40 years.
It does seem like an unusual amount of power for an entire third of the federal government.
Right.
Just to be like handed this job for the rest of your life, and the people really have no say at that point, or at any point in the process. The people are completely cut out of 1/3 of the federal government.
Right. It's like, why shouldn't they have elections like everybody else? I mean, hell, we have elections for these people. I mean, I think judges are elected anyway in the beginning, but they're appointed. This is one of the most important positions you can have. And we have no say, as you mentioned. Let's have elections. Let's have debates. I think it'd be incredibly entertaining to watch two judges argue back and forth about Constitution and, how they would interpret it. I find that fascinating. Maybe no one would watch, but I would.
It might be fascinating. It might be entertaining, but I don't know if we want to be, having elections and debates about law. I mean,
well, people would know more about it, though. People seem so ignorant. People are just applauding for the dumbest shit tonight. And maybe if they had these debates, people would actually tune in and learn a little something about the Constitution, what it actually means, and what application of law there is, and why these edicts are passed down saying Obamacare is legal or not, because nobody reads the memos that are put out, not the everyman.
No one is going to tune into a debate about law. Can you imagine how boring that would be? I mean,
it's not like they're going to be reading like legal briefs on TV or anything. It's like, if we get to have debates and elections on the people who make laws, why not the ones who interpret them? I don't understand what the difference is really. Like, if anything, I feel like it's a less critical part of the two, because it's really hard to get laws overturned unless they're like ridiculous. So, but we vote on the lawmakers, but not the law interpreters.
Yeah, agreed. Especially consider the fact,
I don't know.
And there have to be term limits. I mean, when you consider how much people change over time, like how long did it take to get people to even accept medical marijuana as a thing? Like all these older guys are, never, never. When you look at the Supreme Court, a lot of them are always going to be old because they sit around for years. So they're not changing with the times.
Yeah, Scalia was Supreme Court justice since 1986, almost as long as I've been alive.
Right.
Like I beat him by 3 years.
Attaboy, JB.
An incredible long time for a public official to be in power. Yeah. It's like the reign of a king or something like that.
It's really amazing he was able to live that long and just being a Supreme Court justice, because that's not an easy job. I'm assuming quite amount of stress and work and all that goes along with it. So
I think there's far less because they're not as accountable as elected officials are. You see how ragged presidents get at the end because everyone's always yelling at them all the time, and they have to worry about getting reelected for the second term. Once you're a Supreme Court justice, where is the pressure really coming from?
Yeah, it's like being a professor with tenure. Yeah,
that's actually kind of the point. I believe that's kind of why the Supreme Court is set up that way, so they don't get influenced by this pressure. But life seems like an incredibly long time to hold any public office.
Yeah, well, it makes sense in a way that you don't want to be influenced by what the electorate might do, but still, give them 8 years then a term. Give them 10 years, whatever it is. You have a nice long 10-year run where you don't have to worry about it, and then you go for re-election. And if you get elected, great. If you don't, get out of there and have something new going.
Yeah, but I think 8 years for really anything in political life or judicial life, that's enough. We don't need a president more than 8 years, a congressman, a senator, a governor, a Supreme Court justice. 8 years, that's enough time. I'm fine with that.
Me too. And marriages should be capped at 8 years too. Hey,
have everything in 8 years.
I'm engaged.
Have it all.
I'm gonna get married in October, but you know what? That's enough. 8 years later, let's call it off.
8 years of schooling, that's all you need.
Exactly, more than you need. How about Ben Carson? Let's actually get into the debate. How about Ben Carson, by the way, taking on the whole free college thing? He was the only one to really speak on. I haven't heard any Republicans take that on. He was the first one to do it. And as I said in our little live blog, I think this was Ben Carson's best debate by far. Not even close.
So can you summarize what he said about the free college thing?
Basically, let me see if I have notes on this. And I don't. But no. Oh, no, here we go. No, I do. I do.
We don't want notes.
I do. But no, so he actually, the statement he made was just that, free college is unsustainable. It adds, we already have a massive debt. It's going to add so much more on top of that. And then it also impacts, this unsustainable debt. It's unguaranteed debt. So you have this original debt we've got already with college. Then you make everybody free. Everybody goes to college. And then he said, how is that going to impact the Fed? How's that going to impact interest rates? Because you've got all this money out there tied up with this free college. So I don't know. I thought it was pretty interesting that he even went into it.
Yeah, I think the thing that gets me with the whole free college debate is everyone just, at least on the Democrat side, it seems they want to make all college degrees equivalent. If you want to go for an art history degree or an engineering degree or a biology degree or a pre-med degree, make it all equivalent. That should all be paid for. It should all be free, which I think is pretty ridiculous. Because what's an art history? Someone who majors in art history, they might graduate and get a job doing something, but they're not going to make any money in the field of art history. At least not that I know of. So that's one thing.
Yeah. Those jobs are like few and far in between to actually land one of these positions from what I've read.
Well, hell, most of us that have degrees, like I have an English degree, I work in public relations, so I'm using my degree to an extent, but I think most people that graduate the degree they had don't necessarily use that degree. I mean, engineering, you would like, Odie, you have an engineering degree, of course you're going to be an engineer.
I don't have engineering. I have a supply chain degree. And I don't use it. I don't use it at all.
I had so much respect for it. I just lost all of it.
Awesome.
It's all gone. No.
To salvage this, I use my degree. I got a biology degree, and coincidentally, I'm a biologist now. So
there you go. But in the sciences, it makes sense. In electrical, mechanical makes sense. But for a lot of people that graduate degrees, they never use them for what they're intended anyway. And as we've discussed in various other forums, a lot of college degrees, people change statistically jobs 3 times before they're 30. So clearly people are not using degrees they're intended for. And unless you have a very specific job function, you don't necessarily need that education or that degree. So if they get college free for everybody, all you're doing is making college into high school. People are going to go to college. Everybody gets a degree. Nobody's going to have work because it's all the same shit. Like right now, there's people sitting at home on the couch because they have a college degree and there's too many people graduating. So if everybody's got one, how's that going to help the workforce? Who's going to want to take that lower paying job, that has a college degree? Like, oh, I've got a college degree now. I'm not going to take that job. Ridiculous.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think it gets a little bit misconstrued, though. I mean, it's not a bad thing per se that more people have degrees, that more people are getting educated. I think that's good that we have more people that even with higher education in the state it is. Going to college, you're going to be exposed to more things, both inside and outside the classroom, which I think in general is a good thing. But that's not to say that there's not a lot of jobs out there that are also well paid, like being a plumber, an electrician, or any of the trades that you don't need to go to college, and you can make you can make as much money or more money than people that have a college degree.
Well, I know a few friends out here. Oh, sorry, I don't want to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
Well, I have a few friends out here in LA that I met. None of them went to college. They all got into programming. Because it's something you can learn on your own. There's a lot of applications you can download. You just take your courses online or figure it out. They're all making a ton of money now, more money than I'm making, and they could because why? They had a 4-year start. They're getting into this business. They get a 4-year start. They turn that in. They 4 years of seniority. Now they're making tons of money. They got in on their own without any college education. Meanwhile, people that are graduating with a degree in programming or whatever else are starting 4 years behind and basically probably got 4 years of education you could have had in a year because you're not taking all those kind of general credits that are worthless for what you want to do.
Yeah, that's a good point. Definitely a good point.
Yeah.
But I think I'm not 100% certain on this, but I think a lot of the free college pushes are more geared towards community college and trade schools. I think there is actually a trade school provision. Don't quote me on that, but I'm fairly certain that there is. But really all that's going to do inevitably is push things like a master's degree to distinguish yourself from other people in the workforce. Master's degrees will become like the new undergraduate degree, where if you want a better job or to stand out or make your resume look good. Now more people are going to have to go to master's degrees to, basically distinguish themselves.
Right.
Because everyone has a undergraduate degree.
Right. Yeah. Or doctorates or whatever else. They're just pumping more money and more time into the system. Now, instead of people going to college.
And those aren't going to be free.
Oh, well, I should hope not.
Yeah. So
yeah,
kind of just kicking the can down the road a little bit.
Yeah. And you think about what does that do to the workforce now? If you have to differentiate yourself by having a master's degree, instead of being at a high school working or at a college for 4 years working, now you're going for a master's. So you're in for 6 years, let's say. Or if you get a doctorate, you're in for 8 years. Maybe at that point, maybe you just stay in the educational field and you just do nothing. It's ridiculous. And then you look at the cost of it all, which I agree with Odie that having more education in general is good, but maybe the emphasis should be on better education in high school, which is atrocious right now. The U.S. is probably, I think we're like 300th in the world or something as far as education. So put more emphasis on education in schools. Get the federal government out of that because it's been a complete failure with the No Child Left Behind stuff and everything else. Get them out, have more money from the states. They can put more money into education on a lower level, educate people better. And then you don't need to go to college and have a hell of a lot of fun for 4 years, but also get in more debt or put everybody in more debt because we're paying for it.
All right. Well, I would love to just have this whole show. We could talk about higher education and the problems of free college, but let's talk about this ridiculous debate. The crowd, did you guys think the crowd was drunk during this debate? Have you ever seen a crowd that booed and cheered as much as this crowd?
No, it was crazy tonight. Like absurd tonight. I swear the crowd had to be all, I said the Southern Baptist because they go crazy for Rubio and his religious. I swear to God, they had to be Southern Baptists who are used to being like, yeah, let's go. Woo! Because they were going crazy for everything. They're booing, they're cheering. It was like, Odie, I think you said it was like, being at a NASCAR rally. It's like, did they have a grassy area above the seats where people could, just go crazy? It was ridiculous, but it also was fun in that way because I was laughing my ass off at the hypocrisy of a lot of people because Ted Cruz would say something that would basically be something they just booed earlier. And, people would be like, oh, they wouldn't clap. And then Rubio would say something even worse, like on immigration. They'd be like, oh, yeah. Ridiculous.
Yeah, it was so blatantly, obviously, a pro Marco Rubio, pro George Bush, and I guess to a lesser extent, pro John Kasich crowd, because they didn't get booed at all.
Yeah.
Anything remotely, I don't want to say decent, just almost anything they said that was, they just got cheered for just random things. But Trump, I don't know what Trump was trying to do tonight, what his plan was, if he just kind of just went off script and was just freewheeling. But he was, I don't know if he came off for his base. I'm sure his base loved it, but I don't know if new voters, people who are on the fence are going to like him so aggressively going after Jeb and Rubio and Ted Cruz. He tore into Ted Cruz, calling him a liar. And
that was crazy.
Things he lied about.
That was a great exchange there.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not surprised. Like, even Cruz called out the crowd for being the donor contingent, that the entire crowd is filled with donors. So I'm sure Trump realized that as well. So he's just going both barrels. He didn't really care about the crowd's response to him personally. He just wanted to put out like what he wanted to say to the general populace. And most of that was scathing. And he did rip into some people quite a bit.
No, totally. Well, what bugs me about Trump, though, just turning to him for a second, is that he, his foreign policy is, we were looking at it, we're like, okay, so it's good. You hear what he says about, you don't want to destabilize the Middle East. Great. You don't want to, to go to war with Russia or get involved in Syria. Great. That's fantastic. Agreed completely. He was against the Iraq war. That was a mistake. Great. Applause. Wonderful. Good job, Trump. But then he also talks about we need to go in and take out ISIS in one big blow. It's like, I don't know exactly what the guy is saying. I don't know what his actual plan is ever. And one of the moderators called him out on some other topic about that, but I still don't know what the hell he actually really wants to do other than build a wall. That's the only thing I know he wants to do, which is never going to happen.
Well, that's the only plan of action he actually, speaks about. When he was asked about his Social Security plan, how that would cost like $12 to $15 trillion, what his plan was, he completely skated around the question and started focusing on China for some reason. Like China has anything to do with our Social Security problems.
Right. It's like, when is he actually going to start talking about his actual platform? At some point, he's going to have to do it. The moderators clearly keyed in on that fact that he doesn't actually say anything substantive. So it's like, come on, Trump, put it out there. We're 9 debates in. Are you going to say anything of value?
I mean, not to excuse Donald Trump, but I mean, when you look at the other candidates, you look at a Rubio or a Jeb Bush or a Ted Cruz talking about the Middle East, especially Bush and Rubio, we'll talk about going after both ISIS and after Assad. But that's all they say. What happens after you wipe out ISIS and Assad? What are you going to do then? It's the same things. You're going to have terrorists just funnel back into the area again, and the same thing will happen again. So I don't think anyone has a plan, and I don't know what the heck a plan would be for something like that. I mean, it's awful what ISIS does. Assad's a terrible dictator, but I don't know what the answer is.
There's honestly no one left on that stage who will honestly talk about the repercussions of any type of action brought upon by the U.S. government in that region. There's no one left who will even broach the subject.
Kasich kind of did. Because he had that statement where he was talking about the history of how, the Western states had divided up that area of the Middle East and caused a lot of the problems with the different factions, which, I actually like. Kasich did a good job. The last few debates, he'd been sounding more neocon, but tonight he kind of got back to his foreign policy positions that I liked initially many debates ago, saying that the U.S. shouldn't be involved in civil wars, essentially, and we should only go to war if we're directly threatened and that kind of thing. So I was pretty impressed by Kasich in a way. So I thought he kind of addressed that.
I did point out that Kasich has a similar posture to Ron Paul. If you notice, he kind of holds himself the same way at the podium.
Yeah.
So maybe a little bit of that Ron Paul non-intervention is rubbing off on him. I don't know.
Certainly hope so.
It's probably not.
Because he's honestly, I discounted Kasich. I was like, okay, afterthought. But he's growing. He's taken, he's getting more prominent and getting more followers in the polls, which is great. He actually just added Rand Paul's ad guy, I think.
Oh yeah.
Well, I think every campaign has added someone from the Rand Paul campaign recently. Didn't the campaign manager just went to Rubio's team,
which was great?
Yes,
because that will tank Rubio's campaign. As we all know,
that
Rand Paul's
obviously he's not very good at his job considering Rand Paul's campaign.
Exactly. Like, why would you hire? It's like failing upward. Like, oh, that went horribly, and you got embarrassed in Iowa after saying you were going to dominate. Come on board. You're a good guy. So stupid, but good for us because Rubio, I think, is one of the absolute worst candidates on stage. Is he the worst? I'll pose that question. Is he the worst on stage?
He's probably
the worst. That's tough.
He's the one on stage probably at least would want to be president, even more than Trump. I will say that right now. I actually was getting a bit of stick from my Rubio hate, but I'm going to double down on my Rubio hate this pod and say of every person on that stage, he's probably the one I would like to be president the least.
Let's do that. Let's go around. We can start with JB and let's rank the current remaining GOP contenders from worst to, I don't want to say best, worst to not worst.
Are we explaining why or just listing them?
Explain as you go through if you want to. I don't know.
One or two sentences.
Yeah, we don't have to get in detail.
Yeah, otherwise this will be an hour and a half long for the second half of this pod because the B team does it right.
Exactly.
Go, JB, go.
I'm thinking this is like a really hard question.
Jesus.
Like,
man. Do you want me to start?
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
All right. I haven't even thought about this. I'll just freewheel it. So I definitely agree. Rubio is the worst. My reasoning is a little bit different. He's a huge neocon. I don't trust him. But also, my daughter's name is Ruby, and my last name's Odermatt.
Rubio.
So her nickname might be Rubio, which I can't have that. So Rubio is by far the worst. I want him nowhere near the Oval Office. After that, I've got to go with Jeb Bush because he's pretty much the same as Rubio. He's a neocon. We've had enough Bushes. Had enough of it. I'm sick of the Bush dynasty or whatever the heck they want to call it. Then from there, it gets a little strange. So we have 3 left, right? There's 5 total. I'm not missing someone, am I?
No, I think so. There's 6. There's 6.
Yeah, there was 6.
Oh, Ben Carson. Oh, I forgot about Ben. Sorry, Ben. I'll put Ben at the third from worst at next. So Rubio was 6, then Bush, and Carson next. Just because I honestly don't think he could handle being president. I don't think he has the capabilities to really handle it. I mean, a great brain surgeon, but he would fall asleep on the job, probably literally. Okay, from there, I don't want to take up too much time. From there, probably down to the next three. Well, I said Jeb, so Carson, Jeb, and then I'm down to either Cruz or Trump, right? Yeah. No, Kasich, Cruz, or Trump. Okay, so I'm Cruz, then worst from there. So then I'm left with Trump and Kasich. Trump and Kasich for who I would pick. That's tough. Wow. I guess, just because I've got to say Kasich would be a little better than Trump. What scares me the most about Trump is his stance on torture. He talked about during the last debate. I don't know if you guys heard that, where he said that because ISIS has chopped people's heads off, then he's going to bring back waterboarding and far worse. So that really does scare me about Trump.
Medieval times, right, is what he said.
I would put Kasich at the least worst of the final six. So, all right, who wants to go next?
JB, are you ready? Do you want me to go?
Yeah, I'll go. I'll continue that trend, and I'll put Kasich first. Like, I feel like of the people left in this election, he's the sanest by far, and probably the most equipped to be president of the United States. I would have to say Kasich goes first. And after that, I really dislike everyone else. So I have to do this through gritted teeth, but I'd have to go Cruz second.
Wow.
Yeah, I'd have to go Cruz second.
Why?
For almost the same reasons. Like, of all the people after Kasich, I'm definitely lukewarm towards Kasich, but the others I hate with a fiery passion. So this is me doing the best that I can to rank people who I absolutely do not want to be president. So Cruz just comes out on top there. He seems, of the people left, most likely to do the best job out of them if he were to be president of the United States.
So you think maybe Ted Cruz is less likely to nuke someone than Donald Trump?
I think so. I think there is a little shred of libertarian somewhere buried deep in Ted Cruz. And if he has the job, I think the rhetoric will die down a bit because he doesn't have to worry about appealing to a base. He can actually appeal to his real principles. And I think there is a shred of libertarianism in that man. So he has to be second after Kasich.
JB has officially started the old thing we said about Rand Paul, where Ted Cruz will get in office, rip off the shirt, and have the giant L libertarian Superman.
Exactly. I have my fingers crossed that could possibly happen. So I put him as second.
I think JB just turned into a Ted Cruz supporter right now.
I think he did.
I think you just heard it here.
He's cruising. So do you want to go through all the rest, or you just want to say who's your worst candidate then?
By far, Rubio. Like, his warmongering, his inability to answer pretty much any question directly. He pretty much said that we should have some type of entry-exit tracking program with people on visas that basically means like spying on everyone who legally enters our country. And he's just, everything he says that comes out of his mouth seems like the wrong thing to do. Yeah. So I'd have to go Rubio last, and probably go Trump, Bush, and Carson in between somewhere jumbled around.
All right. Well, here I'll lay down mine. And by the way, this is the first time using my my fancy mic tonight, so I hope that I'm getting recorded correctly. I hope I'm not going in and out. I'm also, because of the back surgery, standing and sitting back and forth. So if it's louder and softer. Anyway, okay.
It sounds good on this end. I'll give you that.
All right, good. Okay, so I would say I'll go from bottom to top like Odie did originally. So Rubio, the worst. I'm impressed and happy we all agree that Rubio has moved into the position as the worst candidate. As you guys said, total war hawk. His ideas, like his tax plan, also pissed me off. He wants, like Odie, you said you have a kid now, Rubio, and his 3 times tax break on having kids. That's not fair to the rest of us. I'm sorry. I understand. Yeah, you want kids, and it encourages having more kids, I guess, which I think is an issue in some ways, especially with the welfare state. But you get a 3 times tax base for kids. That's great. The rest of us are still paying our taxes in full because we don't have kids. That's
life's not fair, Brian. Suck it up and have a kid.
Yeah, but that's bullshit. I'll have a kid someday, but still, I'd rather have lower taxes across the board than get some break if I pop out a mewing McWilliams Jr. that I gotta put food into. And my plan is to put it in a trash bag with the sock on its head until it's old enough to know what it looks like. But anyway, moving on. So Rubio's the worst. Second worst, I would say, is Carson. I just despise a lot of his positions, even though he had the best debate tonight, as I said, and he had some decent positions. His whole foreign policy is idiotic. He said before he wants to bomb everybody and take out the innocents. So stupid, so ridiculous. So no to Carson. Next one up would be for me, Jeb Bush. You guys already pretty much hit all the points, even though I do want to mention that Jeb Bush is the only guy on stage tonight to mention a libertarian, quote unquote, libertarian institution, Cato. Did you guys catch that?
Sure. Yeah, I did.
I caught that name drop.
I was so surprised by that he dropped the Cato study, even though, as we know, Cato is a little bit more right than it is purely libertarian. But
call him Stato nickname.
Yeah, exactly. I remember reading some article they wrote. It was totally pro Stato. Like, Jesus, come on. After Bush, I would put. God, it's so hard between Cruz and Trump because JB makes some good points. He does have some libertarian values, but his foreign policy destroys me. Honestly, it's hard to support a guy with that foreign policy view where it just seems so aggressive. So I'll put Cruz then Trump after him, even though I hate a lot of his positions. His eminent domain thing is ridiculous. The immigration issue is ridiculous. And the wall, of course, is insane. But a lot of his foreign policy is great and good on Second Amendment, et cetera. And then Kasich at the top.
So we all agree on the worst and the best, which is I guess that makes sense. You know, we all pretty much have the same philosophy.
Well, it's surprising in a way, and I'll tell you why. It's because Mark and I had we did our Cruisin' and Bruisin' podcast, which we can link to in the show notes, where we had said that people were talking about Cruz as the libertarian option, like JB mentioned, but saying, okay, what's the next best option? And we had said at the time Trump because of his views, but Kasich after this debate has obviously leapt up.
Yeah, honestly, if it wasn't for Trump's what he said about torture during the last debate, and then him calling Ted Cruz a pussy, leading up to New Hampshire, because Ted Cruz didn't want to, it's not that even Ted Cruz even said that he didn't want to use waterboarding. He just kind of weaseled his way out of it with legalese, saying it's not really interrogation and he won't do it in a widespread fashion. But I didn't realize this, but apparently Ted Cruz's father was tortured, which Trump obviously didn't know. So that kind of hit him in another place.
Wow, I didn't.
But that was. I'll put that in the show notes. The article I read on Ted Cruz's father being tortured. It's. I don't know. And then the Donald Trump has his before New Hampshire, he has his sons out, or I forget which son said that waterboarding is nothing worse than what's going on in fraternity houses across America, which is just a freaking insane statement that's so out of touch.
I don't know what fraternity he's part of, but.
Yeah,
you guys
bring people to the brink of death.
I was a couple years ahead of you guys, but I got waterboarded.
Oh yeah,
bunch of goddamn pussies getting into this.
I think we phased that out. Yeah.
One thing, because we should probably wrap it up because we're going a little long since this is a double show. But one thing I did want to bring up real quick though is just that Jeb Bush. I want to hear what you guys take on this because I liked this thing that Jeb Bush said in a way. It was about capital gains. And it's kind of a, what the hell? I have no idea what side I'm on because Jeb Bush said, he had a policy about capital gains, which in general, I'm against capital gains tax because it's double taxation, in my opinion. You made money, you invested the money that's already been taxed. And if you make more money, great. But then they tax it again. So double taxation, which should be illegal. But Jeb had mentioned that for these traders, that people are widely hate these traders. They should be taxed upon capital gains far more than the general public because that is their job and they are basically making their income off that trading and it's not their money. They're just getting commission off of it, which I'd say I agree with that. Otherwise, they're not paying the same taxes as the rest of us. So what are your guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, if the way he explained it is actually, I don't know enough about it, but if the way he explained it is true, then I do agree with him that it should be taxed as income because that is, what they're doing to create that value to picking investments that are valuable and are going to appreciate over time. That's their job, and yes, they're bringing in income. It should be taxed as income. But with that being said, I don't think there should be a capital gains tax at all. I think it's bad for prosperity. It's bad for it de-incentivizes people from investing. So I would get rid of capital gains altogether.
Well, agreed there. JB, your thoughts?
I don't know really, like, kind of in your boat. I don't know much about the capital gains tax and how it's implemented. But if what he says is, if Jeb said is true, and that they use that as their only or main source of income, I can see the point of the tax. But I'll have to disagree with John on a point that I don't really see the existence of a capital gains tax at all being a real what was the word you used? Like
disincentive?
Disincentive.
Yeah, disincentive
to investing, because the capital gains tax would likely, if even if the capital gains tax was 50%, you're still making money. You know, it'd have to be to the point where you're not making any money at all for it to be a real disincentive, because, you know, why would you not want to make money with this extra money that you have around? Because you won't get to keep most of it or all of it. You're still making something.
Well, I mean, I think maybe you're not thinking of it in a broad sense, as broad as capital gains is. For example, I've recently been buying property in California and reselling it. And
buy it and let me live in it, Odie. Jesus, I'm dying out here, man. Rents are so high.
And the same thing like with the house I live in now. So you say I bought this house a couple of years ago. And when I sell it, you know, say if I buy it for, you know, sum of money around we'll say $100,000, and I sell it for $150,000, I have to pay capital gains on that. And
on the increase of value after since you've owned the property.
Absolutely. Of course, you can write off anything that you put into it. You know, if you improved it in any ways or things like that. But yeah, it definitely hurts entrepreneurs. It hurts people just trying to go out to make money. And I think that's good. You want people trying to find places to add value in society. So it really is, you know, they talked about a value added tax. Capital gains is essentially, I think it's partially a value added tax, not in the same way as value added tax operates entirely, but it's a form of it.
Yeah, I agree with you that I think overall it should be obliterated. It's ridiculous. I've had to pay capital gains a few times on stock transactions, and it just is one of these. I agree with GB that I don't think it necessarily disincentivizes people from investing, especially like lower level, you know. But it's your money that's already been taxed that you're not making more money on, and as you said, it has application over wider places than just the stock market, which is the only thing I know it from. So yeah, it shouldn't exist. It's absurd. It's just like, what can't the government tax? You know, they find a way to tax everything, and we should wrap this. I was going to go the whole thing that they just banned taxes on internet access, but we'll leave that for another time.
Let's just do a quick. Let's get a prediction on South Carolina on the Republican side. Start with you, Brian. Who do you think is going to win South Carolina, second and third?
All right, I'm going to say it will be number 1 will be Rubio, number 2 will be Jeb Bush, undeservedly, but number 1 and 2, and number 3 will be, either Carson or Kasich.
Wow, you don't think Trump is going to place in the top 3?
You know what? I don't. I mean, I know it's a lot of supporters, quote unquote, in the crowd, but God, the support. It's, you know, the South is a different animal, man. Like they have different things they value. Trump is not a guy who's a religious kind of stand up, loves Jesus, you know, goes to church guy, and they might look at him with a lot of distrust, even though the polls indicate otherwise. I could be dead wrong, but that's my guess.
You're predicting an establishment sweep, pretty much, right?
Pretty
much. Top 3. Yeah.
Pretty much in South Carolina, I am, yeah.
Okay. JB?
I'm going to buck the trend a little bit, I guess. I'll say I think Cruz will take it because of those reasons that Brian just said about the demographics of South Carolina Republicans. I think Cruz will snag this one, but I still think Trump will
Rubio, though?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think how well is Rubio even polling right now in South Carolina?
You know,
he's in second behind Trump. Trump has been going between, I don't know, high 20s, mid 30s. Rubio's been in the high teens, I think.
Well, Rubio went his closing statement. Just look at his closing statement for all you need to know about what he knows about South Carolina and their voting. He's basically being like, at the end, he's like, you know what? I believe that life begins at conception and marriage is only between a man and woman and God leads, not the president, and Israel is our ally. And, this is like the most religious stuff ever. So clearly he's playing into that demographic, which I have to believe is for a reason.
Yeah, maybe I'm underestimating the power of this rhetoric on the South Carolina Republican voting base. And maybe he will. I was going to put him as third, but maybe he'll win it. But as of right now, I'm saying Cruz, Trump, Rubio.
Cruz, Trump, Rubio.
I'm going to stick with that.
I think I have the same three as you, JB, just different order. I think Trump's going to win. And that's, after that debate performance tonight, anything could happen. I don't know if people are going to hate that or like it, but it was some crazy ballsy stuff by Trump tonight. I don't know what he's trying to do.
It was just throwing insults and interrupting people. You're a liar and blah blah blah. I mean, just crazy insults from Trump.
Yeah, it was weird. It was definitely weird. I'm gonna say Trump's gonna win. I think it's gonna be very close. Right now, like I said, he's polling in the 30s. I think he's gonna win it in the 20s. And I think there's gonna be a lot of people right around him. I think second is gonna be Rubio. And then Bush and Cruz are going to be right there as well within that four. I think from 4 to 1, they're going to be separated by at most maybe 8 to 10%. So it's going to be really close. But I think Trump will pull it out.
All right.
So with that, guys, I think we've run over, and since we talked for more time, I think that makes us the A team. I don't know.
Damn well right, and more insightful, I believe.
Yeah, much more insightful.
This is going to be a long podcast. But a lot of listeners have actually said they wanted longer podcasts, which I thought was strange. But hey, when you love something, you let it go free as far as the time it takes.
Exactly. So if you're still listening now, hopefully you are. You can find the show notes, everything we talked about. We'll link to it, and I'll go back and I'll listen to what Mark and those clowns talked about, and I'll link to their stuff too, since I'm a nice guy. And don't forget to follow the Lions of Liberty on Facebook and Twitter. We send a lot of stuff out, all of our podcasts and articles. You can find it there very quickly on your Facebook and Twitter. Join our private Facebook forum, the Lions of Liberty Forum. There's a lot of past guests that have joined there. We talk about a lot of things, and sometimes we're bringing some guests on. You have an opportunity to bring up questions you want to ask, so definitely look into that. And subscribe and rate us on iTunes and Stitcher. That's probably the best way to help us right now. Go on there, give us a comment and a positive rating. We would really appreciate that. And also to check out all the past podcasts, all of Mark's past interviews, all of Brian's past Rand pluses and minuses
Rest
shows.
Rest in peace. There's going to be one more to cap it. One more to
coming
cap
soon.
It. Yeah.
But to hear all the old ones, you can find them all at the lionsofliberty.com/podcast. So check those out. And with that, guys, let's sign off.
Live long
and live